Gambia's former information minister reminds journalists of their responsibility ahead of the December presidential elections. The WHO chief calls for equitable access to COVID-19 tools. And a Nigerian engineer joins the fray in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, these and more coming your way in this week. It's 2000 hours from our studios in Banjul. This is Africa TV, and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. Now, as the clock ticks closer to the December presidential elections, the media continue to be reminded of its powerful role to ensure a free, fair, and transparent process. The latest voice on this subject came from the former Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, who places the media in the front line of electoral duties. Bintejano reports.
Discussions of media functions within electoral context often focuses on their watchdog role by unfettered scrutiny of public affairs. Electoral publicity goes out to show identities of candidates, their successes and failures, engagements of government and electoral bodies in fulfillment of the public right to informed choices. Former Minister of Information and Communication Infrastructure, Demba Ali Yao, outlined the importance of the media, particularly during election periods.
The media is a very, very important component of any elections whatsoever, or any democracy whatsoever, particularly when it comes to elections. It's extremely important, and it can make or break any democracy during an election. So it's important that the media should be very, very vigilant the way it handles elections. Vigilant in the sense that they should not allow the politicians to use them. I mean the journalists should never allow the politicians to use them, because the politicians are only interested in winning the elections. And for that reason, they are prepared to go to any length whatsoever to use whatever means is necessary or is available to them to win the elections. And and that can also include using the journalists to achieve their objective. And the journalists should be very, very, vigilant about that, and so that they should not allow that to happen.
The former president of the Gambia Press Union warned that it could be dangerous for the journalists to cover press conferences of political parties which are paraded with party supporters.
Of course, it can pose some dangers to journalists, but as far as we journalists are concerned, our objective is to get the information from them, no matter what happens. So we need to be very careful when we attend such press conferences, but certainly it should not deter us from going there and getting the information that we need from them.
Mr. Yao advised journalists to keep up to fact-checking business in order to prevent any chance of misinformation.
Well, misinformation is a very dangerous trait whatsoever, because particularly when it comes to journalists and elections, because if we do not inform the people correctly, then they will not be well informed as to what kind of choice they are supposed to make in elections. So, it's a very dangerous trend, and it can even lead to trouble, because if you tell the people what has not happened, and probably they take it as something factual and they take action based on what you have told them, when it turns out not to be true, it can cause a problem in this. So we should be very, very careful of that. We should always ensure that as journalists, whatever information we give is very factual and verified as well.
For the Gambia to evolve, independent media can no longer be an enemy of the state by default. Instead, the media needs to play a role in ensuring inclusive and transparent governance processes, while at the same time informing the citizens about their role and responsibilities in the democratic transition process. For iAfrica News, Binta Yalo.
Former Information Minister reminds journalists ahead of the December presidential elections in the Gambia. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron and several African leaders and dignitaries attended the funeral ceremony of the late president of Chad at the main square in N'Djamena on Friday. The funeral went ahead despite warnings from the rebels against attendance to the ceremony. His death pushed Chad into a looming political unrest, alarming Western powers over political loss of a key ally. Khadija Seka tells us more of that in this report.
President Deby was a key player in security strategy in the Sahel region, and Chad is reputed for having one of the best trained and best equipped armies in West Africa, battling militants linked to both Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Chad's late president was laid to rest on Friday in a funeral ceremony held amid uncertainty over the country's democratic failure. The Central African nation was thrown into turmoil after the military announced Deby's death on Tuesday, just one day after his re-election for a sixth term in office. A close ally to Western powers, Deby was in charge of Chad's central role in counter-terrorism operations in the Sahel and Red Chad Basin, where various Islamist extremist groups operate. Speaking in the ceremony, President of France, Emmanuel Macron, lauded the achievements of the late president in maintaining peace and security within the region.
Cher Président, cher Maréchal, cher Idriss.
Dear President, dear Marshal, dear Idriss, we are gathered before your remains after 3 decades at the head of your country and after so many brave battles. The battles you have fought, and I quote, "You have always been the expense of territorial integrity and the homeland, the preservation of stability and peace, the fight for freedom, security and justice."
La préservation de la stabilité et de la paix.
The President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, said the Chadians should honor their fallen leader, describing the late president as an exemplary leader to the people.
Cher peuple tchadien, plutôt que d'annihiler les efforts réalisés jusqu'à ce jour dans le renforcement de l'unité et de la...
Dear Chadian people, rather than annihilate the efforts made to date in strengthening the unity and stability of your country, the sudden death of the Marshal of Chad should in fact serve as a memory of something illustrious that has disappeared. He was a catalyst for a true union of the Chadian people in its greatest diversity. Our continent has suffered enough from the lack of unity and stability.
Chad's president was one of Africa's longest-serving ruler and a close ally of the Western powers, especially France. Deby rose to the rank of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces by spearheading a 1999 rebellion that overthrew authoritarian leader Hissène Habré, his one-time mentor. He officially took over in February the following year and went on to win elections in 1996 and again in 2001 before pushing through a constitutional change in 2018 that would allow him to stay in power until 2033. Although criticized by human rights groups for his repressive rules, he established himself as a key military ally of Western powers in the international fight against armed groups. Khadija Seka, iAfrica News.
Several African presidents and the French president paid their last respect to the former Chadian president, Idriss Deby, who was laid to rest on Friday. Now, a Nigerian engineer has developed an automatic hand washer to help contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The West African nation has registered over 100,000 coronavirus cases, according to the country's Centers for Disease Control. The newly built hand washing machines are distributed at different public places, which is highly welcomed by Nigerians. Here's more details of that in this report.
40-year-old engineer William Gang is building his 6th automatic disinfectant hand washing machine. The machine has a sensor that dispenses liquid soap and water and carries out temperature checks without any touch by the user. It also has an alarm system that beeps once a person's temperature exceeds 40 degrees Celsius.
We also want to contribute, just like the doctors are putting effort to curtail the virus. So we felt we, as engineers too, we can also play a role. And then also, if we can be able to get support from much more capital from the government, and then so that we can be able to do more and establish an industry, so that we can even train the young coming youth, so that we can create job opportunity.
In major cities in Nigeria, like Lagos and Abuja, government and private offices, including shop centers, have invested a lot of money to import automatic disinfectant chambers to ensure COVID-19 protocols are followed while accessing buildings. But in smaller cities like Jos, where there are limited resources, a bucket of water, soap and a bottle of sanitizer are placed outside public places, but the method has not been very effective. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control says there have been over 160,000 cases of COVID-19 in the country, with over 2,000 deaths. William Gang says he was inspired to construct a machine to try and help the fight against spread of COVID-19. It can be operated using solar energy as well as electricity. Gang distributes the machines to government hospitals and other public places for less than half the price of imported ones. Some Nigerians who have used the machine say it's a welcome development.
The most important about this aspect of this machine is it's locally fabricated in Jos, and the technician handling it is easily accessible in case of technical malfunctioning.
Gang is now building a team of young apprentices to build more machines for the local and export markets. The Nigerian government has pledged nearly $300 million to invest in the health sector to boost innovations and expand its response to tackling COVID-19. The hope is that people like Gang will benefit from such funds to help reduce transmission figures of the disease through their inventions.
The efforts to contain the COVID-19 pandemic continues, and from the report in Nigeria, we come back home. Now, during the holy month of Ramadan, Muslim women around the world are more than ever committed to the wearing of clothes that cover the entire body in reflection to the commitment from their Creator. Speaking to Africa TV on the merits of the month of fasting, Ustaz Chebu Cham noted that modesty is required observance for men and women during and after the month of Ramadan. The Sise has more details of that in this report.
Ramadan is regarded as the most beloved, during which Muslims work extra hard in observance of the word of Allah, as revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is a period of fasting, prayers and charity, with the Islamic code of dress taking over the fashion industry, especially with the women folk. In light of this, Ustaz Chebu Cham said the month of Ramadan in fact presents a golden opportunity for the Muslim to improve on his dutifulness to his Lord, and not necessarily the only time to do good.
Women should look modest always. They should change. But if you think you will only change during the month of Ramadan and after Ramadan you go back to your old ways of dressing, then meaning the month of Ramadan has not taught you anything. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this month obligatory upon us to fast, then it is like a training school where you can be trained and be someone who believes in Allah. So people should understand that we are not worshipping the month, but instead we are worshipping Allah.
He reminded Muslims of the fact that Allah the Almighty is ever living and present everywhere during and after the month of Ramadan. According to Ustaz Chebu, the role of a woman during the month of fasting surpasses that of a man, because everything that a man needs to fulfill his fasting is provided by the woman.
Women are the other half of men, and we all know that half of something cannot accomplish anything. You should be complete in order to achieve something. The stand of women in this month is very clear. That is why they are cherished by Islam. Most of the good people in the world were born by women. This is why the importance of a woman is manifested all the time, not only in Ramadan. If you look at their stand in Ramadan, It is clear and strong. All what we are surviving with, women are the ones making it most of the time.
The role of women as narrated in Islam is so important that their children seek entry to paradise through them. The hijab, known as modest dressing, is prescribed for women as an act of faith and obedience to Allah. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
And from that report there by Ndesise, as Imam Chebu Cham reminds the women the important roles they played, especially in the holy month of Ramadan. Well, there's more news coming ahead, but for now we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remainder of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. This is Africa TV, and once again, thanks for joining us. The Director General of the World Health Organization has said that the world has a long way to walk on the second objective of equitable access to COVID-19 tools across the countries. The Act Accelerator followed the attainment of the fourth objective of the development of vaccine and rollout campaign under the WHO standard. The CISE has more details of that in this report.
Since the development of the COVID-19 vaccines, the WHO boss has constantly emphasized the need for equitable access of vaccines and tools to low and middle-income countries that have yet to receive a single dosage. Speaking to reporters in Geneva, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the first objective of the ACT Accelerator has been achieved, but there is also a need to work on the second phase, which advocates for equitable access to COVID-19 tools.
The ACT Accelerator was conceived with two aims: the rapid development of vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics, and equitable access to those tools. The first objective has been achieved. We now have several safe and effective vaccines to prevent COVID-19. We have rapid diagnostics tests for it. And we have oxygen and dexamethasone to treat it. But we have a long way to go on the second objective. Around the world, people are dying because they're not vaccinated, they're not tested, and they're not treated.
The ACT Accelerator is a new global collaboration to accelerate the development, production, and equitable access to COVID-19 treatments and vaccines. The World Health Governing Body, however, said that the new global collaboration will need $19 billion to promote vaccine distribution.
The ACT Accelerator needs $19 billion this year. That's a drop in the ocean compared with the trillions of dollars governments are spending on supporting their economies and the massive revenues that most vaccine makers are generating. It's not good enough to say that inequity is just the way the world is. It's not okay that people just like you and me die when we have the tools that could save them. We cannot accept the same old story.
Emma Hane, Chief Access Officer at the WHO, said, in order to respond to future pandemics, It will require innovation and to know how tests are developed in countries.
We've seen an expanded scope and need for diagnostic testing deployed in areas like improving public health response, in responding to new variants, and in the future in responding to effective test and treat programs. We're also working to ensure that the ACT Accelerator leaves a legacy. We know that we will need diagnostics to rapidly respond and identify the next pandemic. And to be able to respond to the next pandemic will require innovation in how tests are developed and in how manufacturing is scaled rapidly to ensure we have the tests needed for the global response.
Access to COVID-19 tools. ACT Accelerator is an international campaign that was launched 1 year ago by the World Health Organization and a group of health stakeholders. It is meant to ensure that tools against COVID-19 are developed more quickly and are made available to all countries in a fair way. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Desise.
The WHO director encourages for fair access to COVID-19 tools. Now, the man who was suspected of drug trafficking using a pickup truck belonging to the United Democratic Party has spoken to Africa after he was sentenced for evading police checkpoint. Yusuf Jambang escaped a jail term after paying a fine up to $7,000 for driving without a license and evading police checks and causing a damage on police patrol vehicle. Omar Ahmad Toure has more of that in this report.
The man identified as an auto electrician says he had been given the yellow pickup vehicle to diagnose and fix its electrical system. Yusufa Jambang, who was at the time of his arrest driving towards Turntable, explained his motive in evading the police checkpoint.
The
police hit my car. They hit it from the front and their car got damaged. So again, I backstand to go. They hit me from the back. Luckily, no damage was done to my car, but their car got damaged. So I escaped again and drove away as I got panicked because of the manner in which they were pursuing me. My car got stopped at a point where they found me and conducted a search on me, but did not find marijuana or anything harmful. They asked why I drove away. Since they did not find marijuana with me, I told them I was not having a license, and that was why I diverted to the other way.
According to his narration, the police conducted an initial search on him, where he was apprehended, but nothing of illegal substance was found on him. It was, however, at the Bunim police station when he was called out of the cells for the second search to be conducted. They
also asked me why I drove away when we reached at the station. You have neither marijuana nor anything harmful. I was put in the cells when we reached, while some arrived later with the vehicle I was driving. So when they arrived, they brought me out and told me, we are going to conduct a second search on the vehicle. So after conducting their search, they opened the car and brought out remnants of marijuana and asked me about it. I told them, it does not belong to me. It belongs to you because I did not put it there. You put it there. I told them you searched me and the vehicle and did not find anything with me. You took me to the station in your car and you brought my car, so I did not accept that.
He was found guilty by the Bruceby Magistrate Courts on charges relating to driving without license, fleeing police checkpoint, and damaging a police patrol vehicle, for which he paid a fine of $7,500. The issue of drugs was never mentioned in courts, and the vehicle allegedly used for the crime is reportedly given back to the mechanical garage.
Yeah, motor careless driving and
At the court, a marijuana issue has not been mentioned yet. The case against me was for careless driving, the damage to the police vehicle, and failure to stop for police search. They dealt with it, and it is over now, and I have been charged for $7,500.
Alasan Kambi is a brother to Yusufa who attended the court proceedings.
So with all, he was convicted for the 3 charges. That is the careless driving, if I could understand. He was charged for he was charged for careless driving. He was fined for $1,500. In default, he would have been in the prisons for 4 months. And failing to stop for officers on their duty, he was charged for $3,000. In default, he would have been in mile 2 for 3 months. And on lancing driving, he was charged for $500. In default, he would serve 2 months imprisonment. And compensation of the damaged vehicle, which he was charged for $2,500. In default, he would serve 4 months in the prison, which totally amount to $7,500. So this was paid by us. That was the following day.
On the aspects of drug allegation, Mr. Jambai is currently reporting to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency unit under the Bundum Police Station. He, however, maintains his innocence in anything having to do with the marijuana herbs as alleged. For iAfrica TV, this is Umar Ahmadu Toure reporting.
And from the report there by Omar Ahmad Toure, we go next to Kenya, where a young Kenyan innovator is making a name for himself after he successfully invented a solar-powered jacket in his country. The young Kenyan is trained photographer but opted to explore other areas to boost his earnings. As we feature in this report, he narrates his successful story after several failed attempts.
Bridge Kaflon, a photographer by profession, decided to venture into something different as a side hustle and has come up with a live hoodie, an innovative jacket that is simple but rewarding. Powered by solar energy, the hoodie is a package. Here, he's assembling one of them for a client as he tries to beat the deadline.
Here in Africa, it's rare commodity. It's not something that is everywhere or is locally sold. So it's something new, number one, and people want it. Because this hoodie, apart from just light, it has also, it can charge phones, you see. And it also, you can regulate heat. For example, when there is cold, you can regulate, you can increase, or when it is too much hot, you can reduce.
The hoodie can also light the whole room for up to 5 hours. What he envisioned became to materialize. His dedication and solution-oriented mindset gave birth to an innovation that even for him added value before he impacted his community with the gem.
It was for my studies. I kept on trying until I came to now making my first hoodie, which now I posted and people started seeing it. But now the hoodie that I posted was like the 10th one after trying so many of them. Initially, before solar, it was just a direct to the socket, the first one. Now, people feared being electrocuted. And also people told me that maybe, suppose this thing electrocute somebody, government would come for me. So that is when I started thinking of what I can do. Now that's when this idea of solar came about.
At the moment, the demand for the special wear has attracted even top musicians and artists across Africa.
Great initiative there, and from that inspiring report from Kenya, we finally bring this week's news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on iAfrica.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and do have a good night. Bye-bye.